With harvest underway across the prairies, there's a chance drivers may come across farm equipment on highways going from field to field. While the number of collisions with farm machinery is low, they're likely to result in injury.
I'm joined today with Tyler McMurtry from SGI. Thanks for being with us, Tyler. We're talking about farm equipment. Now, this time of year, we may be seeing more farm equipment out on highways around our community. And SGI has a message for drivers to keep their eyes peeled when they come across this equipment on the roads.
Very much so. It's something that we like to remind people every year this time of year. We know harvest is underway in many parts of Saskatchewan, and where it's not underway, it's going to be soon. We want drivers to understand that they're more likely to encounter farm equipment using the roads, the highways, the grid roads to move their equipment between fields. And so there's a few things that you can do to increase safety for yourself and for the people that you'll encounter on the road. You indicated one of them is just paying attention and remaining undistracted. We talk about distraction a lot. Of course, it's one of the leading causes of collisions, one of the leading causes of injuries and fatality on Saskatchewan roads. But when you are in the summertime, there are so many more things that you're going to encounter on the roads. And this time of year, particularly, you're going to see those large pieces of farm equipment.
So, what are some of the other tips you'd have for motorists when they're driving and if they happen to come across some of these pieces of equipment on the road so that they're not causing a collision?
Yeah, understanding that what you're dealing with, I think, is very important. For example, farm machinery, very slow moving. If you're coming up on it at highway speeds, you're going to approach it very quickly. Another reason, always keep your eyes on the road and not on your phone or anything else that might distract you. Understanding that equipment is deceptively long and wide in some cases. There are requirements for farm equipment to have certain markings and lighting when it exceeds a certain size, or if it is only capable of going a certain speed. But just paying attention to what you're dealing with, giving it some space. Farm equipment and the operators who are moving it, there might be blind spots there. So maybe not following too closely behind, giving yourself a little bit of space by hanging back will allow you to anticipate if they are suddenly about to turn off the highway onto a field. Knowing that they can't always signal their intentions as well is something that drivers should be aware of. So just paying that extra attention and trying to anticipate where the farmer is going. Of course, as motorists, we'll probably be looking to pass that vehicle, but in some cases you won't be able to if there's single lane highways and heavy traffic going both ways. Understanding that you need to be patient. If you are looking to pass, making sure that you have enough space and room to do so, and doing so quickly. Looking ahead onto the road to see if there are any turnoffs where they might be looking to turn left just as you're pulling out to pass. That's a recipe for a collision right there.
Some people may be thinking that this isn't a super common type of collision to have with farm equipment on the highway, but in the past 5 years, 41 people have been injured in these types of collisions. So it's something that people should keep in mind.
If you looked at this and said these aren't super common collisions, you'd be right. We're talking about 86 collisions over 5 years. That's not a huge number, but what does strike me about those numbers is what you noted, the injuries and the fatalities. There's been 7 fatalities as well over the past 5 years and 41 injuries. When you're talking about that number of casualties resulting from a small number of collisions, it tells you that those collisions tend to be quite serious when they do occur. So it's in our best interest to keep them from occurring. As motorists, you're often going to come out on the short end of the stick on those collisions, unfortunately, and it's the motorists who are going to be hurt. The other thing that I think we can all appreciate living in an agricultural province like Saskatchewan is just how important the agriculture industry is to the province of Saskatchewan. We all like to eat, of course, and Saskatchewan is Canada's breadbasket. But one of the things that it's a really important time of year for our agricultural producers as well. You don't want to do anything to hurt their livelihood by taking a really important and expensive piece of equipment out of commission at a very crucial time. So if you want to thank a farmer, one of the ways you can do that as a driver is to make sure that you help them get where they're going safely and and it'll benefit you as well because you won't be involved in a collision that is more likely than others to injure you.
Welcome back to the show. It's time now for this week's crop update. Here's Thomas Wildman.
It's time for yet another edition of the Crop Report, and with me, as always, we have Matt Struthers.
How are you doing?
Thank you, as always, once again for being with us, Matt. And so let's hear what's new about the Crop Report for this second week of August.
There's not a huge change from last week. We're slowly just getting into harvest here as things start to turn around for the province. We had a bit of rain in the northern region again, or northern part of the province, in the northern regions there. And that's probably going to delay harvest even a little bit longer than already has been. And then down here in the south, there was far less rain, so that was good for those producers who have started their harvest of mostly just lentils right now, and they'll start moving into their durum and other crops here pretty soon. Harvest for the whole province is sitting at about 1%. That's mostly coming out of the southwest and west central regions because the southeast, east central, and the northern regions have yet to start.
With that 1%, you've said that it's being delayed a bit harvest, but that 1% is kind of typical for right now, as per usual, correct?
The 5-year average is about 2%, so we're right around the ballpark there. And just to compare years, last year at this time we were sitting at 7%. So it just goes to show how much more moisture we've gotten this year, how much more of a typical crop we're looking at. So that's a very positive thing to see. We're just hoping now that there is some warm, dry weather in the coming weeks that'll force those crops to start to turn, and producers in the central and northern regions are able to start their harvest operations.
And then you said lentils specifically and durums will be coming along later in those southwestern regions. Are there any crops that currently, I know we're looking really far into the future, that maybe are a concern of how late they'll be ready to mature and harvest?
No, there's nothing on the wind right now that says that there's going to be anything that's going to be super late. I just said lentils and durum because down here in the southwest, that's typically the first things to go right now. Producers make quick work of their winter cereals and they move into their pulses such as lentils and field pea. And then down here we have a lot of durum, so that'll be picked up next. And then crops like canola and flax will be kind of the last things to go. But barring any terrible weather, there shouldn't be any more delays. Certainly, a lot of crops down here are ready to go, so producers will make quick work of them. Up in the north, producers would like to see their crops turn and start to ripen up quickly and start to turn, because the longer they wait and the more risk they run of you either getting hailed out or having a frost. So
talked about poor weather already, and we were mentioning in previous reports the grasshoppers. Is there kind of, as we're getting closer and closer to that harvest, what are producers doing in hoping to stop pests, or is it kind of a waiting and hoping that the crops turn and then harvesting whatever is hopefully good and left?
It's for the crops that aren't ready to harvest yet. Producers are still out there trying to control them using multiple methods out there. Whereas down here in the south, where most crops are ready to go, producers are mostly just trying to harvest as quickly as they can if the crop is ready. Of course, if it's not ready, you can't harvest it. But grasshoppers have done a terrible amount of damage across the province, mainly down here in the south, where it has been a bit more dry. But there's pockets all across the province that have suffered dearly at the hands of those little insects. So hopefully next year we get the moisture that we need to keep those populations down, and they're not able to explode like they have in the last 2 years.
Well, that's going to about do it for the Crop Report this week. Thank you again to Matt Struthers for being with us this weekend, and we'll hopefully look forward to your Crop Report coming up next week.
Thank you very much.
And now here are your agriculture prices for today. Kids of all ages were out on Thursday for Rolling Green's Junior Golf Excellence Tournament. A shotgun start kicked off the junior golf tournament where many kids came out to enjoy the weather and compete in a round. Many of these kids have been taking lessons at Rolling Greens, and their coach spoke about the growth and learning these kids have underwent.
I was there for all the lessons, and I watch a lot of the kids grow, and a lot of kids are having a good time out there. So, I mean, it's a good time, and the parents are even out here, and so it looked like everyone was having fun.
At the event, there were also some refreshments and activities for the kids to enjoy. Rolling Greens believes golf should be a relaxing experience and even a useful tool for dealing with stress.
It's just something to get away from, and if a guy's stressed out about what's going on, just go out and play 9 holes, and you can find that it actually helps a lot.
Upcoming events at Rolling Greens include a ladies' night happening next Wednesday and the Joy Memorial Tournament on September 3rd. Looks like they had some great weather yesterday. If they're doing it today, would have been just as nice. Let's check in with Shelby Clark, who has more of our weather forecast.
Thank you so much again there, Jace. Yes, it's really nice to see that the kids are having fun once again out there on the golf course. He says, you know, it helps with stress doing 9 holes, so I think I got to get out there and do some 9 holes. What do you say? I think we'll do it sometime. But now taking another extended look at your weather forecast. Taking a look at our central zone to start us off. On the Alberta side, we are warmed up quite a bit. We are seeing kind of the similar temperatures of what we have been seeing for the past few days. Most spots over on this end are just seeing that 27 degrees, so just a few degrees off of that 30 mark. Red Deer is just at 28, so they are seeing the warmest temperature there while the rest are at 24, 25. Cold Lake is slightly cooler at that 22 mark, but we are seeing with some spots with that heat warning in effect. So as I was saying before, just make sure you're staying hydrated, using that sunscreen, finding shade when needed, but enjoy the nice, beautiful day out there. Switching over to our Saskatchewan side, they are kind of a slightly different with their temperatures, especially over here standing up in Meadow Lake with that 19 degrees. We start to slightly warm up as we go a little bit more in the center here with 24 in North Battleford and Prince Albert. Melford is slightly cooler too, just past that 20-degree point, but down in Saskatoon, they are seeing the warmest now reaching 30 degrees. So definitely some different types of temperatures over on the Saskatchewan side in our central zone. But now moving over to our northern zone, as you can see, they have cooled down slightly for today, starting off their weekend, unfortunately. Most spots just are at 19 degrees, so right under 20. As we go a bit lower to La Ronge, they are at 16, so seeing the coolest compared to most. Up in Stony Rapids, they have just reached that end. And now switching over to our Alberta side, once again, they are looking slightly warmer compared to the Saskatchewan side for sure. Down in Grand Prairie, they are seeing the warmest with that 27. We start to move up. We start to cool down. 24 for Peace River and Slave Lake, 22 over in High Level, and the rest are just at that 19-degree mark. So northern zone isn't looking too warm today. But going over to our southern zone, exactly different. They are definitely hitting that 30 mark for most spots. Heat warning definitely in effect for most spots as well, especially here on the Alberta side. 30 degrees for both Calgary and Banff, while there's 31 down in Lethbridge, 33 in Medicine Hat. So Medicine Hat has definitely been continuing that warm streak for quite a while now. Up in Coronation, they are quite still warm, just under that 30 mark, but might as well kind of joining them there. And switching over to our Saskatchewan side in our southern zone, they are slightly cooled down compared to the Alberta side, except for here in Swift Current, Kindersley. They are still seeing that 30 and 31. Start to get a little more over to this end here, and it start to cool down. 28 for Moose Jaw and 27 in Estevan. Meanwhile, in Regina and Yorkton, they just are a couple degrees cooler compared to the rest. But now going back across the region and looking at what we will expect throughout our evening and throughout the night into the weekend, we will be seeing those double-digit temperatures still there with that low of 15 in most spots expected. Low of 16 that Wainwright will be expecting, a low of 13, 14 for Provost and Myrnam, and Meadow Lake will be seeing that low of 12. So most spots will be seeing some nice conditions as well and having a nice warm night tonight as we head into the weekend, which will be nice. You get to stay out a little bit longer. And looking at our 3-day forecast, we will be seeing a beautiful weekend here in the border city with that 27 tomorrow, 24 Sunday. Seeing a mixture of some sun and cloud for both days, so make sure you're enjoying it and have some nice outdoor activities planned with friends and family. Make sure you enjoy it. Then Monday starting off next week, we'll be starting off still quite warm with that 26. And ending off with another look at another one of those photo submissions. This one is still from Kathy. Sent 2 beautiful photos, so I just had to use them. They're absolutely glorious. So thank you once again for your submissions. Love seeing those northern lights. Beautiful green in the sky. And that's all I have for now. Our Jace Mackey will have more news coming up after the break.
I'm proud to introduce to the program Anne Charles, the author of the Jackrabbit Junction series, to talk about her new book. Thank you so much for being here today, Anne.
Thank you for having me on.
Twisty Tortoise Tussles is book 6 in the series. What does it mean to you to have book 6 coming out in your Jackrabbit Junction series?
I'm so excited. You know, the other book series I have, the Deadwood Mystery series, I'll be working on book 13 next. And that's when you're that far into a series, it feels a little different than you are back in the first 10. And both, it's exciting at both places, but I'm really happy to get to share more of the Morgan sisters' crazy life and their adventures and move the big overall series plot forward some more. In book 6, there's a few new characters coming in that we get to know better, that play a part in, you know, what's to come in the next few books. So it's fun to bring in a little bit of new blood, to still have all the other characters there, and just offer a story that I hope makes people laugh and chuckle and you know, have something bright to look forward to if they're having a bad day or bad week, you know.
What are you hoping fans of your work think of this new installment?
Well, I want it to be like a fun roller coaster ride. It's called Twisty Tortoise Tussles for a reason. It's full of plot twists and it feels like a dust devil just spinning through the plots, you know, involving all 3 of the sisters. In this book, there are 5 different points of view, and that's the first time I've done 5. I've done 4 in the past with this series and 3 a lot of times, but this time just to add to that feel of, wow, this is a crazy ride. There's another point of view that's in there as you meet, you know, get to know one of the newer characters a little bit better. So I'm really hoping that it's something they can read, laugh, have a good time, shake their heads like, oh, those crazy sisters, and just finish up looking forward for what comes next in the series.
What would you recommend for new readers of your work? Do you recommend starting at the beginning and going through, or is this a series sort of where you can pick up at a certain book and read it without having to read the others?
If you're like me, you always want to start at the beginning because that's just my personality. If I know it's a good series, I want to go back to right at the start. And I recommend you do start back there if that's the kind of reader you are, because you will meet each of the characters bit by bit. The first book, you meet Claire and several of the other secondary characters, and includes the hero, Mac. And then in book 2, we add Sister Kate and then Claire and Kate's mom, who's a real character. And then in book 3, here comes the oldest sister, Veronica, and that's the trio of them. And so by book 4, now you have all 3 sisters there, and it's now, you know, we're building more and more towards the first turning point in the series and all the fun that's coming with all of them, you know, they're together. However, when I write each book, I do keep in mind that sometimes there's new readers that'll pick up the book, you know, at book 5 or 6. Sometimes readers have gone a year or 2 from reading the last book. And they don't feel like going back to the beginning and starting over. So I give enough of a history of the characters and what it has to do with this plot in particular, you know, this story, so that you don't feel like, oh boy, you know, I don't remember who this is. You can step in at book 6 or book 4, or you can go back to 1.
So what do you think your book brings to its genre?
It's a mixed genre. Okay, so let's start there. It's called the Jackrabbit Junction Mystery Series, but it's really a mix of mystery and suspense and humor, a lot of humor, and some romance, all kinds of stuff, adventures thrown into this, treasure hunting. So I don't really 100% fit in the hardcore mystery genre, but there is always something to solve in it. So that's kind of why we call them the mysteries. What I bring to it, hopefully I'm one of those that authors in this genre that brings laughter and humor. If you're looking for something a little bit lighter, this isn't, you know, like some of the more serious dark mysteries that are, you know, heartbreaking in some ways and what's happened, who's died. This is more light, crazy, wild times with mystery thrown into it.
Thank you again so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk to you guys.
Coming up this weekend, it's Alberta Open Farm Days, and tomorrow you and your family have a chance to visit Chatsworth Farm. They're just outside Vermilion, and they're going to be giving guided tours of their farm. It's an opportunity to see all the livestock. That includes cattle, horses, chickens, so much more. Plus, you can see their garden. There's going to be an opportunity to enjoy a delicious barbecue lunch. There's a farmer's market, there's machinery demonstrations, hands-on activities, and so much more. Spots are limited, but there are still a few available. Check out chatsworthfarm.ca for all the details. Sunday is going to be a very fun day at the Frenchman Butte Museum because they are hosting their annual museum festival. And this year, they're celebrating Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee. So part of that celebration, it includes a fancy hat contest. So make sure you've got a fancy hat for that contest when you head out to the Frenchman Butte Museum Festival coming up on Sunday. They start the day with an outdoor church service at 11. Then they have live entertainment throughout the day. They also have a huge parade. This year, that's going to start at 1:30 in the afternoon. And it's always a lot of fun to see the different floats and the great vehicles that make up the parade. They have homemade pie, they have a nail hammering competition, and they wrap up the really fun day with a roast beef supper. And while you're there, make sure you check out the different buildings, all the exhibits and demonstrations as well. It's going to be a great day out at the Frenchman Butte Museum for their annual festival coming up on Sunday. And get out your rubber boots and get ready to explore a wetland with Wetland Adventure Days in the county of Vermilion River. They're coming up next week and it's going to be a lot of fun. There's even a chance to do a scavenger hunt and so much more. Get in touch with the county of Vermilion River for all the details. Well, whatever you choose to do this weekend, we hope you stay safe and stay healthy.
What's Happening is brought to you by Northern Factory Workwear, Circle Drive East, Saskatoon, and Highway 17 South, Lloydminster.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
Joining us today for this week's entertainment panel is Abby St. John. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Abby.
Of course, thank you.
Of course, yeah, really glad to always have you in studio to do our classic entertainment panel, the best part of the week. I say this every time.
Of course.
But we got some good topics as we always do, and starting off is one that's really been talked about quite a lot online especially, and it's great to see this, you know, on screen, especially with that representation. We got Prey, the latest film in the Predator franchise, and you know, this was Hulu said it's the platform's #1 premiere to date, which is like really impressive because, you know, they were even saying like on a couple articles that this passed the Kardashians debut, which is kind of hilarious. Of course, you know, there's so many viewers when it comes to the Kardashians. And it's pretty much about a young warrior that fights like the predator alien that comes on Earth around like 300 years ago. So this is quite a while ago. And her and her tribe end up fighting this alien predator. And it looks pretty crazy. I haven't watched it quite yet personally. I kind of want to be able to watch like the first, like watch Predator, then watch this kind of thing and see what else I got to catch up on. But I kind of want to check it out. It looks great.
Yes, I've seen it. I loved it. I actually watched the first Predator first because I had never seen it. 1987, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I loved it, and I'm glad that I did watch it before watching Prey because Prey has very subtle little nods to the first one, which I really liked, and I could pick up on that when watching it. So definitely, if you haven't seen the first original Predator, watch it first before Prey. I thought Prey was fantastic. And it's a lot of Predator fans were a little bit concerned considering the fact that all the other Predator alien movies have not done good. The fans don't like them. Some people say that they should have just stopped after the first one, which is fair. But this, huge success. It's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes with a 92% critic rating, a 79% audience rating, and like you said, Hulu's biggest premiere, which is fantastic. I think that is amazing. I think they did a great job. Amber Midthunder, who plays Naru, she is the main character in this film, and she is the main warrior. She's really trying to prove herself to her tribe that she can be a warrior and a hunter, just like the rest of the guys that are in her tribe. You know, obviously, because of the time, women weren't seen as warriors, and she really drove that home, and I think it was fantastic. It was a very nice growth movie, almost coming of age sort of, but she really grows into herself as a warrior throughout this film. And you know, obviously fighting something like the Predator is hard. It is very difficult,
Yeah, so like what
especially
is
when
going on right now?
all she has is a staff, bow, arrows. Like, she doesn't have the guns that Arnold Schwarzenegger had. So it's harder, but she does it, and I think the movie was fantastic. I think Amber, she was fantastic in it. I think she's going to go very far in this industry. I hope she goes very far because I think she's a talented actress. I hadn't seen her in really anything else, and I think that's big. I think she's going to go far, and yeah, it's
she's making
fantastic.
it big. It's really great also to see that representation on screen. I couldn't remember what language it was, but they had it like in all the subtitles, even for like had it in that language for people to view as well. And I just thought that was just really impressive. I just think it's really cool to see that. And you know, they were saying that this is probably the best representation they've seen yet on screen too, very accurate and everything. So, okay, so for another thriller that's talked about quite a bit, you know, kind of still on the kind of thriller aspect, I guess, in a way, you know, that one's a little bit more like cat and mouse in a way, like kind of chase, like who's gonna kill who in a way. But this one that people have been talking about is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. This one is a little more of a different case, of course, when it comes to like a horror movie, but it's also a comedy. If you've seen the trailer, you can understand that it looks kind of hilarious. You know, follows college kids, and they're a group of friends here that they go to this secluded mansion, and this is owned by a friend, Pete Davidson. I thought that was hilarious, just knowing that he's gonna be in it. But it seems like it's kind of got like they play this game that's kind of like a murder game called Bodies, 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 and of course this kind of gets twisted up where an actual body is found, and then it's like a whole thing, and people kind of say it's almost like a real life Among Us game, you know? So it looks a little bit interesting with this movie. I'm kind of excited to check it out.
Yeah, definitely. So it's more of like a horror comedy type, which can be difficult to, you know, put out. It's hard to get that across, you know. Sometimes it just ends up being too silly, but this one seems very promising. Like you said, group of friends go and plays this game, then people start dying. Then they become paranoid, like who's the killer, who's actually doing this, and you know, it kind of just becomes that paranoia type film. It's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes with 90% critic rating and 83% audience rating. You mentioned Pete Davidson's in it, also Madla Stenberg and Maria Baklava is in it as well. And Amanda Stenberg was on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah talking about this film, and she quote saying it's a mixed bag, and also playing terrible people that don't know they're terrible, which I think is hilarious. She did go on saying that they acted in this film like it was a drama, and that's what made it funny.
Well, they're making it like a relating kind of movie to a lot of this generation too, you know. You could see that their kids are vaping and stuff when they're trying to find each other, using their iPhone flashlights. They got like, you know, they got like LGBTQ representation when it comes into the group.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah, it's got like a lot of like, you know, things that are like very like open-mindedness now. It's like they say it's like a perfect kind of summer horror comedy movie that you want to see, and it's got good ratings so far and everything. So might as well go check it out, have your own opinion on it, and you know, I feel like it's not going to be something that you're going to regret. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week's entertainment panel. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, Abby.
Of course, thank you.
And that brings to an end our first hour of primetime local news, but stay with us, our second hour continues next.